So good morning, Chennai. So for decades, subsea cables are considered as a telecom infrastructure. With AI coming in, subsea cables are becoming a backbone of economy. I must say, if AI is a new industry revolution, the subsea connectivities are becoming like a hub of it. We have a very interesting panel today. So we have Mr. Narendra, we have Mr. Gaurav, and we have Mr. Santanu with me on the stage today. So first, let's understand why it matters. So to start with Mr. Narendra. So we spoke about the data center growth for the years now, right? So I fundamentally want to understand what is getting changed on the network side of the infrastructure post AI coming in.
Sure. So first of all, good morning everyone, and happy to be here. From a network standpoint, if you look at prior to the AI era, maybe 5 years back or 10 years back, most of the network was consumed by primarily for the data, so video streaming, carrying content delivery network services, social media related content, as well as cloud applications. All such of traffic data was more deterministic in nature, and this was downstream heavy. But now in the AI era, what we have seen, first, the traffic has exploded. That requires a significant change and a complete change in how we design the network or how we plan the networks. If you look at submarines, primarily the submarines were designed more as a connecting major consumption centers, like US was prominent, consumption and a supply center from that standpoint, and most of the connectivity was established connecting Europe to US or Asia to US, because most of the content was residing there. But now in the AI era, all the traffic is getting distributed. Reason being that AI workloads are distributed. That has given a complete different dimension to how we design the submarine cables. And all the traditional routes, while they are still relevant, but may not be so relevant going forward because the new traffic corridors are emerging, which is primarily starting from Europe to Middle East to India, India to Southeast Asia. Then within Asia, there are so many countries which will be requiring AI connectivity, and then going back to US. So this is a fundamental shift in how we design the submarine networks connecting these AI regional hubs. And the traffic requirement, which is growing multifold, has given a new dimension how we plan the infrastructure itself. Like earlier, when we were landing submarine cables, we were planning our infrastructure from that particular cable perspective. For example, if you are landing one cable, you are building a submarine cable landing station for landing that particular cable. You are not planning for a much larger infrastructure. But now with the AI, we have seen that the demand for submarine connectivity is increasing and exploding. That means we are now planning and looking at deploying infrastructure at a cable landing station which can handle multiple cables or can land more than one cable. So for example, today there are operators and players who are planning open cable landing stations which can land up to 5 cables. That is a big shift from what we were doing earlier, and that's a complete paradigm shift which is happening. Subsequently, if you look at from India's standpoint, now the regulation is also supporting and enabling much more cable deployments. So now the new guidelines which are about to come up will have provisions of putting up the stub cable, which allows you to cut down your new cable timelines, because then you require lesser number of approvals, and then you already have your cables in the submarine waters where your another connectivity can come and connect. So that's more on the infrastructure side. On the design side, as I said, now if you just connect to the traditional hubs, it will not be adequate for the AI. What you need is to connect to the new regional hubs. That would mean that you need to build submarines in a much more deeper, denser, and in a meshed connectivity manner, and then connecting to regional hubs. So from, for example, India to Middle East to Europe, similarly India to Southeast Asia, and then Southeast Asia to within Southern Asian countries and US. So there are new AI submarine corridors which are emerging. Obviously, latency will be equally important because with the inference AI coming into play, majority of the workloads will be much more be interacting with the customer that rather than just training modules. That would mean that your response time to a query will matter. So the networks, especially the submarine networks, will become a enabling or a limiting factor. In order to avoid the limiting factor, the submarine strategies are also evolving around that. And obviously the traffic patterns are changing. So there is a fundamental shift in design in terms of infrastructure deployment, which is right now happening. Another interesting point which most of you would have come across is that earlier in the, let's talk about 2000, most of the submarines were, or rather all the submarines were driven by the telcos, right? If in India, the Indian telecom companies, or Europe, Singapore, their respective telecom companies were investing in submarine cables. But now if you look at the large amount of investment in submarines are carried out by hyperscalers because they are investing large amount of money in AI workloads, and they obviously requires connectivity where they have predictable latency, optimized route, a mesh sort of connectivity in place, as well as guaranteed bandwidth availability for them. All of these things are emphasizing much and much more investments which are being coming primarily from hyperscalers. So there is a complete paradigm shift which is happening primarily on the submarine cables.
Superb. Superb. Thanks, Narendra, for sharing the perspective. Gaurav, coming to you, from a cloud point of view, what are the fundamental changes you are seeing post this AI era coming in?
So thanks. Hi everyone. Good morning. And just to start off before, you cannot simply discount the investment telcos are doing. I come from that background, but jokes apart. Coming back to from the DevOps perspective, if you look at AI has made a paradigm shift. Earlier, what was happening is your earlier cloud or your earlier data centers were designed keeping your compute being central and your data traveling to it. With AI, what we are looking at, and I think most of the things what you were also touching on, there is a lot of east-west traffic that is happening as opposed to north-south. Plus, because of the inference that you were talking about now, because of the true nature of AI, you cannot simply have everything, you cannot have compute centralized. So now you need to move it closer to where the inference is required. It could be in industries, it could be a connected car, it could be a smart electricity meter. That inference has to be moved closer to where that AI solution has to be deployed. Now, because of this, there is a major change that you actually look at when you look at how data centers were designed. Like I said, right, earlier data centers, the compute had to be central. Now, because of AI, because of the east-west movement, suddenly you find that all the hyperscalers are now trying to rework or move to a sort of a multi-region, active-active kind of a setup. A lot of new data centers are required. The data centers are quite compute heavy, so they are now being designed with GPU in mind as opposed to what earlier they were designed for. Similarly, your storage now is distributed across, which was not the case. So these changes, if you look at, are adding to the new kind of an architectural deployment that is happening at the hyperscaler end. Plus, because of the basic nature of AI GPUs, which are very costly, you cannot keep them idle like you were keeping CPUs, right? So now there is a lot of solutions that are being developed to ensure that your latencies are kept under check, your GPUs are properly optimized and utilized because FinOps comes into picture. And all these aspects, when you actually look at, are actually driving the new set of architectural changes that we were talking about.
Superb. So, as we heard Gaurav and Narendra talking about the investments and everything, how the AI is changing the cloud infrastructure. So, Shantanu, coming back to you. So, when we say a next generation subsea cable, what it really mean in the plain layman language? How it's beyond adding a more cable system into a ocean bed.
Yeah, a very pertinent question, and good morning, all of you. So when we talk about scaling the next-gen subsea cable, it definitely doesn't mean only adding more cables. If we, draw an analogy and take an airport, so by merely adding an airstrip, it definitely doesn't mean that you have increased the capacity. You need more roads coming into the airport so that there are more lines of communication. You need more, security points so that the traffic is handled. You need more gates. So if I transpose, similar kind of an understanding into the subsea cable ecosystem, one major point, or the first major point, would be that more and more cable landing station needs to come up. And since this is a very deep pocket and a capex heavy industry, and we all know that majority of the cables are driven by the Googles, the Metas, the Amazons. So good thing that it is coming. Also, we need to take care of the fact that what is the effective bandwidth which is contributing to the Indian, international traffic bandwidth, because some portion of it goes directly to them. Effectively, you need to understand as to what is the quantum of bandwidth which is contributing actually to the Indian international traffic bandwidth. Next, I think when I was in TRI, it was actually unfortunate that cable landing station was still considered as a bottleneck. We need to shed that tag actually, that a cable landing station cannot be considered as a bottleneck. It has to have open and non-discriminatory access, which will definitely contribute towards scaling up the next gen subsea capacity, so as to say. And thirdly, you need to support it with commensurate and resilient backhaul network, whether it is terrestrial OFC, which is carrying these international bandwidth to the data centers, or in fact, when we had given the recommendation of cable landing stations, I think somewhere in 2023 or 24, we had spoken about connecting the coastal cities with domestic subsea cables. So you can develop the redundancy of your terrestrial backhaul by laying domestic subsea cables. And it had also come, and this idea actually came from one of the integral stakeholders in the subsea ecosystem. So these three things are very much important. And fourthly, resilience. Resilience not only, again, this was a very interesting question that we had posed, wherein we wanted the stakeholders to give us inputs about multiple data centers in India getting interconnected together. So at some point in time, certain stakeholders who have got their presence in Chennai and Mumbai both, they said that we have our connectivity, but our aim was not to address or explore the connectivity of the same stakeholder into different cities, but different cable landing stations in Chennai and Mumbai getting connected, because if say one gets cut, you can always use the other stakeholders' bandwidth to get the circuit through. So that is something which also needs to be looked into. That kind of transparency and openness, if it comes, it actually is going to scale the next generation subsea capacity bandwidth. That is my understanding.
Superb. Thanks. So after hearing all three of them, I'm sure audience will agree that subsea cables matters. Coming to India's digital infrastructure story, why Chennai is becoming a capital of the digital economy for India? I want view from all of you on this point. So starting with Gaurav. Gaurav, if you can put a light on this.
So one of the major things that I feel why Chennai is actually leading it is, one, the geography, because the way Chennai is located, it has very good connectivity from towards Southeast Asia, Middle East as well, Australia, Japan as well. The other thing is, if you compare Chennai as compared to Singapore, Singapore now the land and the power is quite costly. So your mature economics is something that is actually driving Chennai as number one point to actually look out, because compared to Singapore, your land and your power cost here is quite cheap. Then there is a massive pool of talented resources that is available here as compared to anywhere else outside. So these are important points that are actually driving that and making Chennai as number one spot for everyone to go out to.
So Gaurav, if I say Chennai is getting into a same race the way probably Dubai or Singapore, is it true?
Exactly. See, we need to look at Singapore right now. If you compare with Singapore or Dubai, Not just the current cost, but then now Dubai and Singapore are to a certain point out of resources. So if you have to scale out, Chennai is the best place to be, right? Singapore is not having that options. Again, because of the local policies here, if you look at, we have a lot of alternate renewable energy available here, which is not available in Singapore. That is also one of the factors that is actually leading to Chennai being, or probably Chennai having that potential to lead or come out as a leader in years to come.
Super. So coming to NK on the same question. So why Chennai is becoming a capital of the digital infrastructure of India?
So, Chennai, if you look at historically, has been India's gateway towards East. All the India's major submarines which are landing and connecting towards the East, that is Asian markets, are landing in Chennai. Obviously, as Gaurav said, first thing is proximity. So we can connect in the shortest path to Singapore, Malaysia, Thailand, all these markets, which are emerging markets and drive a lot of digital economy worldwide. So it is one of the key points why Chennai is our gateway to East. The second thing is in terms of capacities, because a lot of such submarines are also going towards Mumbai, but all the traffic which is bound towards Asia and then to the US Pacific is being originated or carried from Chennai all the way back to Asian markets and then onwards to US. The other thing is skilled resources, English-speaking resources. That is a very big added advantage as compared to some of the markets where English-speaking resources are very limited. For example, China, let's look at it. Now, they have a lot of English-speaking and other things, but in comparison to China or probably some other countries, we are much more prominent in terms of English-speaking. The other thing, Chennai itself presents a good consumption market. So, with the presence of a good consumption market would mean that there would be services or the instances made available and then automatically makes it a good transit point or a connectivity point to connect with the regional Asian markets. And there is an ecosystem which is already there since 2000 in terms of submarine cable system, and that ecosystem is continuously growing. Like if you look at in last 2 years, 2 major submarines have already landed, which are carrying a significant amount of connectivity back to Asia. And with the last 2 to 3 years, we have observed one important data traffic shift, which is primarily driven by some of the geopolitical situations, some of the AI related distributed workloads, where we are seeing a lot of traffic being transited from India towards Asia. So Middle East, India and Asia corridor. So Chennai is in a sweet spot to carry that transit traffic. So Chennai is important, was important and will continue to remain important. And if India has to become a global interconnect AI hub, then Chennai will play a very, very important role, because Chennai will enable eastward connectivity, and then Chennai is very well connected with the rest of the country, including Mumbai, which will act as a gateway towards the west and then enable that sort of connectivity.
And just to add, one point that I think I missed and I would like to add to what you were saying as well. Because of the cable landing here, now you suddenly see a lot of interest from the other players in the ecosystem. So you have a lot of data centers coming in, that is driving this. You have the government corridors being set up. Suddenly you will find that that is why, one of the reasons why Chennai is coming out as number one out of all other cities. So that is also one of the points that just wanted to add to what you were saying.
Yeah.
Shantanu, want to know your view on the same?
Same question.
Yeah.
Okay. So I fully agree with both my co-panelists, and I would like to approach this question in a different manner by slightly taking it as how we can make Chennai much more amicable and much more favored destination. What else needs to be done? So if my memory serves me right, I think there are 17 odd cables coming, out of which 6 are coming to Chennai, 2 of Jio, 2 of Airtel, 1 of Tata, and I think 1 of Entity. So having said that, when I was, framing the recommendations for submarine cable systems in TRAI, so we did a lot of research and we went through a lot of state policies, the IT/ITS policies, or some states have got dedicated data center policies also. So of all these study, what I found was that Gujarat had a very encouraging policy. It offered subsidy as far as acquiring land is concerned. If you want to put up a cable landing station out there, and if you want to put up a data center, I think they were waiving off the electricity duty for next 5 years. Electricity duty being a state subject, the state had the power. I think on similar lines, I have not gone through the recent Chennai or the Tamil Nadu state policy, but I think a lot of inspiration can be drawn from how Gujarat was trying to. Incidentally, Gujarat doesn't have a single cable landing station even today. I think one was being planned for Mahua. I think Gaurav will be able to tell us to what is the update for that. But these are very strong and very critical enablers. So if you have a very conducive, policy which gives that impetus or the nudge, it will actually see more cable landing stations coming up in Chennai, firstly. Secondly, my co-panelists would agree that there are a lot of clearances which are required for establishing a cable landing station. You start planning or conceiving today, I think it takes a couple of years for a data center to really come up. There is some coastal region zone clearance and stuff like that, which are very, very stringent. And also, we had, recommended, I'm sorry, I keep on quoting TRI, but I'm not part of the regulatory anymore, but then those experiences are much, much more dominant, and I love to share with the audience. So, if these, permissions and policies are made simpler, then perhaps the gestation period for a cable landing station to come up will definitely reduce. It will encourage more people for Chennai to be considered as a corridor. And thirdly, what I feel is that it is actually a very sorry state of affairs that whenever the cable repairs has to take place, it is either the Alcatel Marine or the Global Marine which has to come inside the Indian territorial waters, and you have to repair. And where do they go to pick up the stores and the space? They go to Sri Lanka.
Sure.
We don't have any stores or cable landing or cable depots, or we don't have the expertise for that. I think if something can be done in that regard, which it will not only boost Chennai, I think it will boost the overall, cable landing station ecosystem. So as to say, so these are something which needs to be looked into to give that necessary nudge so that, Chennai becomes a very favored destination.
Superb. So, moving back to execution. So, a follow-up question to you, Shantanu. So, if I say a no-regret move to make it execute, what are the 2-3 high-level things which you should highlight?
No regret move. I think these are the things. Maybe as I said that I would like to take this on question a bit differently. So I think these are the things which I would like to emphasize upon, which may be looked into from the policy perspective, from the industry sector perspective. Other thing is that we had also recommended about streamlining the procedure of operations of CLS. There has to be a CLS POP and a CLS main. So all the permissions are to be taken by the CLS mains, and CLS POP rides on those permissions. And where are these POPs supposed to come up? They're supposed to come up in those clusters where there are the data center and the cloud infrastructure. I think Jio has worked out in Chennai like this. They have their cable landing station at the coast and their POP somewhere else. And that is for a purpose. So if these kind of models are adopted, I think it will make, or it will bring the presence of the international bandwidth very close to the consumer, enterprise consumer for that matter. So these are some things which can be considered.
Super. Coming to a final this thing, so just want a quick view or a bullet point on the future proofing point. So just tell me, starting with Narendra, so what are the infrastructure move you will see the infrastructure shift in next 5 years that will define our story?
So since I am coming from a telecom background, I'll talk more about the networks. I believe networks will be enabler or a limiting factor for AI. So we should see a significant change in the way networks and the submarines are designed for AI. There would be AI-specific submarine corridors and data center to data center fiber connectivity being laid within the metros and within the terrestrial network. So that would be the one significant
Sure.
change.
Shantanu, coming to you. So, NK said network. What's your viewpoint? What's a major infrastructure
Yeah,
change?
so this is something, a question which is pertaining to my domain and role currently because I am a telecom infrastructure provider. So, uh, you see, the infrastructure was already a highway to carry the data previously also, and it continues to do that role. Now, what changes currently? Now you have AI. We are talking about AI, although it is in a nascent stage, but it has already started getting co-opted into the industry. So we have something called as AI for networks, and we also have to think for something called as network for AI. So AI for networks, I think most of the operators have already implemented. Jio has implemented, Airtel has implemented. So whatever the spam control and all you see, AI has already been implemented into the networks. Now your question is how the infrastructure should
One shift.
So here comes the point of networks for AI. Networks for AI are basically the underlying infrastructure for AI. So what has changed now is that apart from the normal data which used to be fetched previously also, you now have an AI processing engine on that. And what it requires, agility and swift response. Now, for that, the normal infrastructure or the network which is there will not suffice. Now you will have to have something called as intelligent infrastructure. And unfortunately, the infrastructure is still considered under the passive domain, and nothing much can be done about it. But there is one, authorization called Digital Connective Infrastructure Providers Association, which is in the pipeline. Hopefully it will come through, which will, enhance the scope of the infrastructure providers. But what is needed beyond is something akin to, 5G slicing, wherein in case there is a dedicated requirement, some portion of the network gets sliced and get dedicated to that particular thing. So I think some smart, modules or smart network implementation is required to be heaved off to the infrastructure provider so that he can smartly manage or reroute the infrastructure resources for taking care of the additional processing which has now got generated because of AI.
Superb. Thanks. Gaurav, quickly your views.
Quickly, I
just
think
on
we are out
yeah.
of time. So just 2 points to add. I think both of them added quite a good points from the infrastructure point of view. I'll just add from the cloud perspective. One infrastructure change that you're looking at, definitely you'll have more AI specific clouds coming in, which are designed with GPU and AI workload at the heart of it. The other one would be inference clouds coming out, because now you need to start moving AI more closer to where the data is getting generated. So these are two major shifts that we'll see in the next 5 years for sure.
Superb. So after listening all of you, typically people thinks that AI runs on algorithms. That's the key thing. But after listening all of you, I'm sure our audience and myself is agreed that there's a lot more behind, and the next generation subsea cables becomes a very crucial to run the AI infrastructure. So thanks a lot. Yeah.